So session 3. So everybody, I hope everybody had a good lunch, and hope that the listener or the online viewers also had a good lunch. The last session, so hopefully an interesting session to close on Friday, and especially for wait till the end, because at the end we have a very nice tool, because we heard a lot about tools, other tools. Now we have a nice example from which one of our members will show. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about digitalization, digital transformation, because it's a very wide word. It can be detailed, can be very, let's say, big, but I'm very practical as chair of the digital working group, Martin de Bie. I'm also talking to a lot of SMPs and also SMEs, and they got a lot of tools, and that's maybe also the problem, because we are already, I think, digitalized. We create a lot of tools with credentials, and I think most who are in practice know that you have a password and for this system, for that system, and it makes it very difficult sometimes. But if you ask the right questions about what is your digital strategy on a small medium practice, and I think if we with this group go to the nearest accounting firm, small accounting firm, and we ask the questions we heard today about how are you doing on sustainability, or what is your digital strategy for the next 2 years, most of the probably accountants will look at you and say, I don't know what you're talking about, because that's not in their picture. They're busy because they have lack of people to find people, there's a lot of work, and they are really doing their best to provide good service, which they discussed as for operation to the customers. And what I've learned in the Netherlands, and if you know all this picture of the iceberg, and it's used in other cases, but we can also use it for the accountancy profession in a lot of countries, a small percentage of accounting firms are really digitalized on the way we think they should be. The biggest group is still working on, let's say, struggling to survive or to find some, let's say, help from professional accountancy bodies. And I think this is also, let's say, the session where we're going to discuss about how are we going to help as a body, but also how we can support our SMPs. And I want to, let's say, a little bit talk about June 2018, where we also had an EFAA event in Brussels, where Veronique Willems, Secretary General of S&P United, said, as a conclusion to us as profession, be a digitalized SMP to help SMEs perform better, accompany SMEs in their digitalization process. And now, 2021, I think we really make some progress. We're not there yet. We heard today that we make some steps in digitalization, and we talk later on this, what we already, let's say, invented to help ourselves, but also to support our SMPs. But what we see is that digitalization, especially in the COVID time, is emerging, especially at the client side. Because if you just look, and that's from my experience about the EU regulation of the 1st of July about, let's say, the web shop regulation, it was, let's say, for a lot of accounting firms, if I asked the question, how many clients of yours have a web shop, they didn't know. And do they are they following the rules of the 1st of July regulation of the EU? Even software suppliers, I've noticed, didn't work up to that level at this moment. So you see that also with regulation, and that was also mentioned by Luc, maybe something for the EFAA and maybe for the digital working group, that we more and more need to know, okay, what is really happening and how can we more help our members on this kind of let's say, very important regulations which have direct impact on our clients, and moreover is also impacting our way of working, because our clients are looking to us to say, how do you help me on this digitalization question? And that's, I think, one of the things I've seen. As mentioned, this is I do it a little bit different than the other sessions. We do it like a little a coffee table talk. So it's also open for you to ask questions. The members will introduce themselves later on, but we do it in two chapters. So one chapter is going to be how is the professional accountancy body digitalized, what are the challenges, what have they've seen, and what are they busy, so you can really see and ask maybe how they felt on the IFAC tool. And the chapter 2 is how are you as professional accountancy body helping your SMPs, and then also from that side we can have some nice interesting discussions or questions maybe from you from the audience, and I really ask you to give some input. But first I want to ask the members of my panel to introduce themselves a little bit, and I started on the left side and I will pronounce it good. Bart van Coile. Bart van Coile. I said Coile. So if you can ask you, tell us something about yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, before starting, I would like it's perhaps a moment as a member of EFAA to thank the organization and Salvador and, of course, totally the board of the preparation of this organization of today. My many congrats, and hopefully it will stay successfully. This morning was very funny, so thank you very much. So first of all, difficult to pronounce, my name is Bart van Coile. I'm president of the Institute of Accountants and Tax Advisors of Belgium. It's a bit a story of a merge because we have done last year. It's now, we can celebrate 1 year, but it would be a bit stupid because we are an organization with many years, but we had a merge with 2 existing organizations in Belgium. And after now, we are in the first, after 1 year, in the second year now, after the merge. Myself, I started my practice a bit more than 30 years ago. I have next to the other side of my time that I left over from my investment in the institute, I have myself an accountancy office with 36 persons. And now I'm for 2 years now president of the institute. I was president of the former Institute of Accountants and Tax Advisors, but now it's ITAA. The ITAA has 15,000 members. And as you know, in Belgium, we are speaking 3 languages, the Netherlands, Dutch, and then French and German. And now I'm speaking my 4th language, English. It's not my best, so the other 3 are better. So, but nevertheless, with 15,000 members, we are great to support the economy in Belgium.
Ah, perfect. Okay, the next is Ardiana Bunjaku. No, did it wrong?
Again. Try again,
sorry.
That's 2 out of 4.
Yeah, you can do it yourself now.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Ardiana Bunjaku.
Okay.
And I'm Executive Director of Society of Certified Accountants and Auditors of Kosovo. I'm within association since the establishment, so I went through all the phases of the development of the profession. I try to move on and go somewhere else, but I think our members didn't let me do that. So I'm representing a professional body in Kosovo. We have around 8,000 students and members. I can't say members because they are in the process of becoming members with all these requirements that we have each country to become an accountant. So being an organization who represents accountants and auditors, I should say that and during all this period, I have worked very closely with our members to identify their needs and problems that they have. But also, I should say something about myself. I am today in this panel and discussing about the digitalization, but I always freaked out from digitalization. Always, when I had a new laptop or any phone and something happened, I was afraid touching the buttons. First, I needed to have lots of information how to use it. I'm still having a problem. So when I go in front of my members and discussing about now the new digitalization transformation that we are doing, I'm always the first one to tell them, okay, it's okay to be afraid to use all these new tools. And before I finished, I would like to share experience when we talk about digitalization, what happened to me yesterday when I arrived in Brussels. Mm-hmm. I actually filled all the forms. I have the vaccinations done. And the question was there, and this is very important actually for us as a PO when we prepare the manuals for our members to explain to them how to use the apps. The question was you have to upload your vaccination certificate or a PCR or a certificate that you finished the COVID, or it was not said anywhere that you have to upload the vaccination certificate and PCR and the others. So when we came to hotel, and during this period of time when I was traveling, many people could get COVID from me if I was infected. And having a coffee afternoon, I received an email and saying you have to be quarantined. And I was in the middle of the city enjoying my coffee. And of course, who suffered the mostly in this time? It was Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for helping us, doing all the proper documentation and going back to airport, doing the PCR and coming back. I related this example just to tell you that sometimes it's not easy to transform digitally. And with the COVID, we have learned this. We did things fast, and that's not good. So let's discuss more about this moving fast in the new challenges that
super. Yeah.
are
The challenge, you had already some digital challenges. Let's say that. Okay.
Yeah, I started with challenges, I told
correct.
you.
Esteban, you may pronounce your own name fully. I want to.
That was perfect. So
Yeah,
1
okay.
point at
Yeah,
least.
okay, 1 point.
So thank Thank you very much to the organization, to Salvador, to Sarah for your wonderful work and to bring us here. I think it's quite important that we can see each other again after these 2 awful years. Here I'm representing the new working group that Economistas has created in Spain. It's a working group on digital transformation and economy. After these 2 years of pandemic, and before that, we're starting to realize that we need to have a special body just focused on these new challenges that we were facing. I mean, of course, this is not new. We have been dealing with digitalization for more than 20 years. But of course, we needed to organize as a professional body in a different way in order to provide new solutions to our members. So this working group is called Redigital, and basically is trying to think not only about how to digitize our activities, but also about new different business model for the profession, about new ways of learning and new ways of doing training. We are also thinking about how we can think about the digital economy, because it's not only about the activities that we are doing, but also we need to understand the context where we are doing our work. And also we are developing all these new tasks from a national scale. No, I mean in Spain we have more than 50 organizations in the territory, and we try to coordinate actions in terms of digital transformation for all of them. So somehow this is what we are doing. And I hope to have more time later on to tell you about how we are trying to organize ourselves, because there is one final idea that is for us very important. We also need to think about the governance of our professional bodies, how we organize ourselves in ways that are more open, more participatory, more collaborative. And I think that the digitalization is also a great opportunity for this, because digital culture is about that.
Correct. Okay, now the next one I can pronounce, Patrick de Veer.
That's Flemish pronounced, by the way.
In Belgium.
Well, I'm in Belgium, that's true. Thank you, Martin. Let me just start with a little bit about me. Yeah, there's somebody pointing at you.
Oh, sorry.
So you can get a grip of a little bit of what we do with Greenaumatic. Long time ago, I had my own company, and in 2018, on a cold, rainy day, I realized I'm doing something wrong. And the question was, what is that? A really strange feeling. And then I realized that feeling had been there for a long time, even when I started my first company in 2007, actually second company. But there was always a strange feeling. Basically, if I want to do something for the better of the world, just put aside what is better for the world, that's for everybody a bit different, what will I do? And how can I put my skills to that? And one of the things what I saw is at that moment, I started reading on integrated reporting because somebody started saying, Patrick, this might be something for you. I had actually, by the way, 20 different ideas to save the world, but that was the element that they said, look into it, because that fits your skill. And I'm like, but what's my skill? Yes, getting data out, process data, turn it into a report, make it an advice, and make sure that they will transform that into better business decisions. So I learned that over time. I did this for a lot of software companies, and most of the people, they read the report, but they put the report in the drawer, and the advice is gone. 2 years later, I was there for the same advice. What went wrong? In my head, it was like, when I started looking at integrated reporting, for me, it made sense to say, okay, my own company at that point was going quite well financially, but somehow that strange feeling was, what am I doing wrong? I should suppose to look at the other capitals, and I'm not sure if you're all familiar with integrated reporting principles, but you take more capitals into account next to the financial capital. And one of the things there is, at some point, I figured out for myself, if we do this for large companies, and large companies are, of course, being forced kind of do this already by regulation, but also because there are certain processes put in place to do this. But what about the SME? I was myself an SME. And at that point, I read about a lot of regulations, a lot of guidelines, and I can tell you, I still don't understand all of them. It's too much. If I'm thinking as an SME, I would put it aside and do really my core business. Unless somebody tells me or makes it practical and says, Patrick, it is beneficial for you, or this is a risk, right? And making that simple became my mission, to say basically, okay, how can we do this? And the reason why I'm here today is because I got in contact with Alpha Accountants, Fukan San at that moment, and he basically says, we are a B Corp. We have this really great sustainability report on our site, look at this, really good. I said, well, great, and how do you do this? Yeah, we have people doing this, and he's busy there with the whole year doing this. Okay, so how do you expect your customers to do this? Yeah, I want actually a report being done, preferable in an hour. So, well, we do it. And this is how we actually got here, because...
That's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's the cliffhanger, but I just, that's where I stop as well. So
I hear the accountant thinking 1 hour, I can charge it for a lot of money now for 1 hour. So
yeah, but I think it's about how to provide the right tools, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
what we discussed this morning. So
yeah,
hopefully we can talk a bit about that as well later.
That's super. So yeah, we start with chapter 1, and chapter 1 is talking about digitalization of the professional accountancy body and how they experience if they use the IFAC tools and what were the challenges. And I will first ask Ardiana, so then the presentation can start for her, okay, to tell a little bit about how they experience, and then afterwards, then Bart will join in, because, and I think it's also, if you have questions, please ask, because therefore this is a coffee table kind of session.
Okay, thank you. It is interesting to note that when we have performed the IFAC assessment tool for the readiness, at the same time we was hiring also the IT expert to do this particular assessment for SCAAK. Mm-hmm. Because we thought that we have lots of different apps with the SCAAK, like for quality assurance or database for the members, financial part, but they was not integrated completely. So when we received the tool and we started to fill the tool, as you can see, our where we are according to the IFAC and Cloud Think, digital readiness. We can say that we are in a average of the maturity level comparing to the other organizations. But I would like to move in the next slide. And just for your information, we have put on our SCAAK strategy, overall strategy, we 2020-2024, we have as a part of our strategy, it was digital transformation. And as you can see from this slide, we did the assessment within the SCAAK, but also the IFAC assessment. We have developed the ICT strategy finally, because there was lots of questions, and with the board, we have just discussed all this challenges that we went through as a management to understand the technology on IFAC and cloud thing assessment. And of course, after we hired the IT expert, he explained to us all these challenges that we had with the terminology. We are in a process of building now the project team, define the scope, and what's important, in March next year, we are going in front of our members, because we are working on investment plan, but it should be approved by our members. But at this point, we are also looking for donors, because as we all know, the cost of digitalization transformation is very high. So it will be very, today's conference was very good, so we can also collaborate, and I heard that many of professional bodies have very different tools, so we can maybe share in the future. So detailed plans should be done, as my colleagues, IT people mentioned, and start the implementation. We are planning to start the implementation after the first quarter of 2020, and maybe finish some part of it on 2024. To discuss or say more about the architecture of planned digital architecture, as I mentioned, we are not starting from zero. We have some of the apps, but what we are planning to do is that we are planning to move in a cloud and then integrate all the digital parts. So and starting from qualification, enterprise resourcing planning, information and technology management. I don't want to get into details, just what we are expecting from the outcomes. As I mentioned, I'm not very good as an IT. So what we are expecting, I'm talking from a management perspective. I'm looking forward to have a digital customer engagement, like integrated. All the processes to be integrated, because for us as a management is important to be near members, and they to have their own e-card and have all the information online, so they can do payments online, they can have their exams, learning materials to be everything online, but also because for I don't know how it is in other countries, but in my country we are using mostly the social media. Mm-hmm. We used to have website, but somehow people don't go on the website and find any documents and anything. But when we put the information or new things or something in a social media, we immediately get the reaction from the members or from the stakeholders. So it is important, and it is important to know in which country what is used more. Yeah. In some countries, maybe it's a website, but in Kosovo, it's a social media. So the roadmap, very fast, because I promised that I will not use it. So according to the digital transformation roadmap, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are in a planning phase and to allocation of resources. During the 2022, we are going to work on infrastructure to set up the infrastructure, data validation, and cleansing. I asked our IT what this means, and he said you need to clean some things that you don't need there. Prepare data migration, which I think this for me is the most important part, because I don't want to lose any data and keep those that are important. So on 2023, we are planning to start online with a student and members management system, online portal, web version, and online payment, because for the moment we don't have online payment. So after that, in a fourth quarter on 2023, a learning management system, document management system, and digital service desk. And in the end of 2024, to finish also with a part of within SCAAK, within the PAO, like RP of human resources, business intelligence, and mobile apps. Until now, we have only few mobile apps. Like, for example, we have forum. Today we heard that some organization had a forum and members were chatting there. And we did that on a mobile, especially in the period of the COVID, so they can talk with each other. And some other apps, which was very, how to say, useful in this period of COVID, which we didn't thought that we could maybe invest on them previously. But one thing that it is for sure, when we released the app for reporting, we became like a call center. Although we sent all the manuals, it was like from A to B, taking into consideration that first person who would try those, it was me, that I don't have a clue about this. I thought that is okay, but maybe because I heard too many times when they were discussing for the apps, it was easy for me to follow. And we found ourselves that, including me, that we are call center. It was much easier for our members to grab the phone and ask us how to upload. But should we put the Excel file, or should we do lots of different questions? Yeah. So I will stop here. So maybe Bart can.
Yeah. So if you can. So that's good, because what you mentioned, that one of the challenges you had was you introduced some new an app, and then a lot of communication went on, and you found out that digitalization also has some negative one. If you have lack in people, then you have people on the telephone and which not, let's say, there for that moment, and that makes it very difficult. So did you see that digitalization helps, but also generate some new challenges within your organization? And I think if I step to Bart, because then he can explain from his perspective how his organization took this transformation, and especially because it's from two to one organization, makes it also not culture differences. So yes. I leave the floor to you.
Thank you. It has been a long way to go, and it's not finished, the things that we need to do in the merge that we have done. But nevertheless, the Institute as a principle was starting on a digital way. When we filled in the same thing from the IFAC, and the idea behind of IFAC was very good to compare the organizations one to the other. And then we have seen in Belgium that, and it's a bit proud that we can say that we are on a very good score that we have. We are above the average that there is in totally of all the member organizations. And therefore we are a bit proud on the on-site, but nevertheless, in the Institute itself, in the board, we are always thinking all together, and that's quite good of that. When we make the budget of the year that will come, how much money will be spent to IT costs? And I can say, you've said it, it's a lot of money that it's needed. And it's one thing that it's certain for an organization like us is that the means that we have is not unlimited. It's limited, and therefore we need to look forward, make a plan. What is possible and what not possible is, and that we do. We try to make it a long way for the member and think in the member itself. When we look to the results that we have, therefore it's said quite easy that in the members' feeling that we can approve some things and that we need to do, and therefore we will invest in the next time, because we are making links with the government itself. So when they change their address, for example, automatically all the addresses will be changed by us in the organization itself. All the links will be done in the next months. So therefore, step per step, we are going further in the organization. But our institute is not investing only in the organization of ourselves. We are investing a lot in applications of our members. And that's another thing that's very important. I give an example. I don't know how much time I have, but I give you I have time. I give an example. We have done, I think, 4 greater projects. One of the projects is, you've said yourself, do you use a website or not? And one thing that we did, it was a great ask of support of our members in filling in or giving documents to each other, to share documents that one firm has created and share it with others. Isn't it possible to do that? So we can gain together a lot of money when we share with each other. Now, you can do it on putting on a website. That's one thing. But if you put it on a website and you make a change in the document, then it's a difficulty to say to the other, oh, you need to change your document. So we have used, for an example that the Dutch also use, it's called Sienta in Dutch, it's well known, but it's a way, we call it Be Excellent, and it's the way of sharing documents to all the firms so they can use it. They can share it with their staff who they're working with. But when there is a change, nevertheless, on what kind of reason of changing of law, nevertheless, because it's necessary to adapt, the institute will adapt. There's a working group of the accountants together. They make a change to the model, and the model will automatically be transferred to every firm, and every firm can share it with their staff. That's one example that we have done, and we're sharing about more than 3,000 documents, useful documents for every firm itself. Another example that we have done is the invoicing. When we see how can you support a member in the invoicing. Certainly when we discuss about, and I've heard it this morning, what do we do with small firms and how can they survive in the future? And then we have made a discussion and said, okay, we will invest together in useful applications that they self can give free to their customers. And we have made a system that every entrepreneur in Belgium, in Europe, can share their invoices on the way it should be in UBL format. So it can be but you can also do it in PDF and do the transformation in it. Take a picture of the paper of the invoice and it will be automatically transferred to an UBL form. And you can make the relationship with your accounting software. This is given free to every firm, and they can give it themselves free to every enterprise in Belgium. That's one of the examples that we have done to support every little firm in Belgium. It's something that France have seen as a good idea, and France has given it on the same way. They call it over there, we call it Bill to Box over there. It's called jefacture.com. And they're using the same. It's starting now in Morocco. They're doing the same thing. There are discussions with other countries that hopefully will follow in the way of supporting. Because one of the things that we have said is very important for our practice is that the invoice was in the past something nobody would like to touch. Give me the box with the invoices, and everybody said, here's the invoices, go ahead. But now what we see is that everybody is interested in the invoice, because the invoice is one point in a line of payment, a line of things before. And it will be more and more important in the future, and therefore banks are very interested in the invoice now. But in our point of view, we think that the invoice should stay in our profession, in our good hands to support the enterprise. Another example that we did was eStocks. eStocks is a system of shareholders, a book of shareholders, where the shareholders put their shares in. You need to write it in. We have made it together with the notaries of Belgium together an application so that couldn't be possible anymore to trick in it. Everything is written on the right day. There's no other way anymore to change anything in, but when you inscribe it yourself with your name as an accountant or as a notary, nobody else can written it. So therefore, for the enterprise and for every shareholder, it's very good software to know, and certainly also for banks, that there's no changement done in the shareholders book anymore. So something that we have done and given to every...
Can I ask you where you can find this information?
Oh, on our
For
website.
example,
Yeah, oh, sorry, no, on our website.
That's the thing. I need to know the website.
Yeah, on our website you can find it. And
do you use social media or no?
Yes, we do. We have over there is Alexis sitting in the room here is with us, and I'm certain that he has already sent something on the social media. Yeah. No, not yet. Anyway. Not yet. How? Oh, bad idea to say that now. But nevertheless, we use social media. Yes, we do. And a fourth thing that we are now discussing, and the French came to us now. And I've said when you were discussing about unified mainframe build to box, and over there it's called jefacture.com. They have said it's a great idea. But now they're coming to us and they said you need to talk about it where you can. I share with you all the idea. The problem that we have now in our profession is data is used by everybody. It means that we ourselves, with the invoice, we put the invoice in our software programs. Now, the software programs use it in the cloud. It's very useful for us. We can go slowly to real-time accounting, which is a good idea, and very quickly check all the things and make other data analysis for ourselves. But look very good to your contracts. Those data is shared with others. Those data is sold to others, and it's coming from our data, from our offices. Nevertheless, never forget, did your client give authorize to share this data with others? Just a question. Without this discussion, this data is sold, and we have done the effort to put it in it. And therefore, France said, it's done for us. We've seen enough. We are asking to all our members, 1,000 to 50,000. And even the firms can, just once times per firm, 1,000 to 50,000 put in an investment fund. This investment fund will take shares in new companies or existing when it's necessary to support new ideas. And you're telling about things that you're creating, new ideas, to put the money in it to create things for the profession itself. In what direction for the future of the profession. But we will take just 20–25%, not much more than that. We will not govern every firm itself. We just invest with one obligation. The data stays in the hand of the profession. It will not be sold to anybody else than the profession itself. And thus they have started two weeks ago, and there are now more than 30 million euros already on their account, and they're still growing in 3 weeks' time, still growing with gathering the money. And they've said, why wouldn't we do it, every country itself? And so on this way, support to underline and give a lot of help to our members that the data they have just can be shared with our profession itself and not with other persons. And so that the profession itself becomes stronger to sell their products itself. Yeah. So just sharing the idea.
That was a good one, because that's one of the things Bart told me, and I thought, well, that's a great idea, because digitalization is a lot of money. And I did also a presentation in the Netherlands, because a lot of big investment companies sold all the accountancy solutions. So we have large players in our profession doing everything with our data. And on one hand, we are paying for all work back, so we have to pay double, and they do all the thing with the data. So I heard about this project, Dracaris.
Yes.
So as you know, I just went into to call also France with the contacts I have, and I find that it's a really good idea. So especially also what you mentioned for SCAAK, it could be interesting to say, if you have enough members, to say, okay, invest in an investment fund, data, because it's all about data. I did it in the past, also presentations. All power is in the data. Is it financial? Is it non-financial? And what for me is important is also, and what you mentioned also, is how can we share data? Let's say if I got a customer, but he has a subsidiary in the Netherlands, in Belgium, how can I share this data then? With another accounting firm, is he willing to share it? And perhaps there are some European projects, and I will not go into it yet, but I also are looking if we can share a kind of standardization, so regulation. So Luke will be very happy to hear about that, a certain regulation, but how can we share this data? Because if you are an SMP, but that's the chapter 2, but especially if you are an SMP, you have one bakery, how can you help him with extra information, data you don't have? You can't do a benchmarking. So it would be very interesting if you have a data from all the accountants which can be shared. So I really look into the project in France, Belgium. I already sent an email to the MBA I know somebody's here now, but especially because it's very interesting, because we live on data and trust. And one of the things we had on the lunch, one of the things that keeps us alive is the trust factor we give to our clients. And if we can say to them, you can trust your figures with us, and we give something back, then we are in a good position. And that's, I think, you want to say something, Patrick?
I wanted to ask something. Is there no escrow type of model if we talk about data exchange? Well, that's where you keep data in a secure place where people are authorized to distribute.
Yeah, but I'm going back to the first thing I've said. You know, we are sharing data which we didn't ask to the client to share.
Yeah, that's the first point. I agree.
Because we have in our profession the secret of the profession, and the client thinks that under the secret of the profession, you don't share. But what did we share? We used something, a new tool, that we find very useful for our firm because it's in the cloud, it's easy to share, we can work everywhere that we want, it's quickly to use, and as a SaaS, it's very easy to use, and so we are very pleased. But on the other hand, we didn't read very well the small letters in the contract. And that's what we see in the reality, is that other people are selling now our data.
That's the risk, I think.
Yeah. I have one question also before we skip to chapter 2 is, do you collaborate with other professional accountancy bodies? Because one of the things is sharing your learnings from, let's say, the IFAC tool, but how you turn your organization more digitalized. Do you share this information? Because maybe there are other organizations looking for some answers.
Yeah, we are very much collaborating with all other professional organizations that we know from EFAA, FCM, IFAC. But what's the point that I want to mention here, and I don't know if I'm wrong, we can share the knowledge, but when it comes to the tool, as mentioned, I don't know if it's fit for other, for example, PO, because it is a language barrier, and because of the security, for example, I was very much into, like, we need to have as a SCAAK the source code. Source code should be mine, and it should be developed within the organization. And the biggest cost is to develop something from the scratch. But we share experience. Which way to follow, or not to do the mistakes that you have done previously. And, you know, some parts of the manual, because I realized that we thought that we have all the governance documents, we have all the details that we need, but we need for others to show them or the contracts. But as you mentioned, those small numbers, for the IT to develop this part, they need much more information to put in. So that part is it's a good, and we collaborate with different, not just POs, but also with the Chamber of Commerce. Because if I need something for the professional, for our members, then it is important to have also the information from the businesses. And we, as a SCAAK, we partnered and we are member of Chamber of Commerces, because we have few Chamber of Commerces in Kosovo, like American, German, and the business is all member of those chambers. Yeah. One very interesting thing that happened this year.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I want to. Well, I see some guys. So yeah, but I want to make a bridge to, let's say, working together, let's say, and especially I want to look to Esteban, because he is also making the connection with, let's say, from his point of view, for the powers with the SMPs, and I think also what you mentioned, what is needed on collaboration, on information. So
I think that collaboration between our professional bodies is really important, but not only in terms of tools. We have been focusing on the tools that you are developing and that maybe are very much focused or adapt to the national context. But not only on tools, but also in the kind of strategies that we are implementing in our bodies to promote the digital transformation of our members and also of the enterprises through the work of our members. So for us, this is at this moment one of the main challenges, because of the organization of the professional body in Spain. From a national point of view, our working group cannot have like a direct connection with the, let's say, the final member who is in the territory doing his or her work. So we have like the professional bodies in the different provinces, in the different parts of the territory, and we need to coordinate actions. So I think that in Belgium somehow it's also, I think it's a model like that, but for us, sharing practices on how to promote that this transformation gets into our members is essential. It's maybe more difficult than recommending them to use a tool. By the way, so far, in our case, we are not developing tools from the professional body, some applications, but not tools as you mentioned, and we are trying to keep a kind of neutrality, because there are many providers. We know that our members are using different providers, so it's difficult even when we are organizing training and you just decide one provider to go there to do the training and not the other one. It seems that like you are prescribing something, no, and it's tricky for us, no. And also something that I find it's important, it's about communication, as you mentioned. No, this is not something new. We have been working on communication for at least 20 years since the arrival of the Web 2.0. But it's true that we are lacking some ways of engaging our different communities of professionals. From our working group, we are trying to explore different formats. For example, we are doing some podcasting with interviews and roundtables to talk about digital transformation, for example. We are also doing some videos. And I think this kind of, let's say, experiments is interesting to share, to know if those formats are valid, are useful to reach our people. No? Yeah, so this was somehow kind of connection with the member and also the enterprises, no, that later on they are going to work with.
Okay, and if you have something input also.
Well, not entirely, but one of the points you said as well as Esteban is a tool. For me, a tool is a tool, right? And I think what we realize often is that the idea that we have in our head of what we're busy with. So if you look at the accountancy, I'm looking from the outside, right? I'm not an accountant, so. But if you look from the outside, it's like, okay, you have been having this regulatory model for years on the financial side. Now we heard this morning as well, a whole new model how to get the non-financial part in it. And we would like to try to get tools for it and those type of things. But I think we have to take one step back. It's like, okay, understand what data do we have? What can we do with it? And I think the change in mindset is a very key element in this. So the tool, let's say this way, technology-wise, we can do everything. There's no limit. The limit is us, right? And I think this is where we need to kind of look at.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. So if you look at the branding, that's what you mentioned. So the branding of the accountant is at the moment, we have to work on that. Because even, let's say, if, and I did it during the lunch, if we are selling sustainable reporting, the client will say, well, that will cost extra. It's not, let's say, a net value for them at the moment. Instead of it, if the industry where he's working in is asking for, let's say, information. So branding, let's say, to rebrand us for, and we had a session too, what are diversity? We have to work on that, because the view of the clients should be changed on our profession. Okay.
So, something brief, just about the mindset. It was also in my notes. I think that digital transformation is a fantastic opportunity for us to change our mindset and our image in society. And I think this is it's very important, and probably we won't have any better opportunity to do this, because accounting is about regulations in many cases, and technology is about emergence of new things that we cannot expect. So if we try to mix both things, maybe we are able to start designing new ways where the profession can develop. Can
I add one thing?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One interesting area, I think, is a very simple example. I asked somebody, okay, invoicing. I think you mentioned Bart, invoicing. So we can automate the whole thing. That's not a problem. But if we still put in the same data that comes from the invoice as we did before, we don't change the thing, right? But now, if somebody says on the invoice, I take this, this, and this, there's much more to be found on that whole invoice. But we don't. So, but we automate the whole process. In the end of the day, it's garbage in, garbage out. So we need to understand, that mindset means, oh, what can we do with these invoices? What's behind it? And how can we use technology to get it out? So that's what I think, what we should think more of. Yeah.
That's the part that we are going to leave accountants, I think.
Well,
I mean, don't sell the profession.
No, but okay, I can. Well, I think it's important to let's say this session is regarding, let's say, is the Professional Accountancy Body, is that digitalized? What's mentioned, if you sell digitalization, you be digitalized yourself. That's especially mentioned for the SMPs. And if you look at, and I think it's important for us, but also from EFAA. So me as for the working group, I'm looking for ways how to connect all this interesting developments, because maybe the model what Esteban is doing in Spain can be interesting for another member in another country. Yeah. But are we sharing this information to each other? And that's, I think, very important, and to find a way that we can speed up. Yeah.
First of all, we are standing here to share.
Yeah, I know.
But on the other hand, I've said when I'm starting this telling that we have in the Institute 3,000 model documents that we are using with the software coming from the experience that we have that they use in the Netherlands. So we have heard it because we have talked together and shared the idea. On the other hand, I've talked about the invoice, which now is used in France and Morocco. So they are not coming by themselves. We have talked together. They are the neighbors of our country, France and the Netherlands. And so we have a connection with them that's quite easier than with Kosovo today. But nevertheless, we have said, why don't we discuss more together about the things so that we can share more things with each other? Well, and therefore, this discussion as today is very good because it opened the eyes for everybody and makes, and I hope there are a lot of people now watching from other countries which are saying, wow, that's a good idea. Why don't we take an hour to discuss what's it really and how can I support my members with it?
So Bart, can I ask a question there as well? So I fully agree. On the practical level, if I look, I can only look for the Dutch market. But if I see, for instance, a little bit to sustainability, the sharing part looks a little bit less in place than it really is. We talk a lot about it, but in the real sharing, and I hope the bodies can help in really showing by example.
That's one of the things because I'm also involved with Martin Molle about this early warning project. It's also about how to get data. And what you see is the accountancy profession is important because they give data which are compliant with the situation, and they can't get it because we have regulations, or we did not discuss it on a high level to do that. And I think one of the things we should do is how can we share data, what is possible, and especially also, and that's the link also to your other presentation, is what extra information can we gather to diversify new services. Because let's say if I look from my experience now from outside of Europe, bookkeeping is going to be very automated. So we have more time for advice. But the problem is, do we see the light to do something with the data? And can we do something with the data? And can we keep the trust factor? Because that's our lifeline. Are we not seen different by our clients if we are doing it, communicated it wrong? And that's one we have to be very careful on that.
And I think there is another factor that is very important for digital transformation in the medium term. Is the incorporation of the new generation of professionals. I don't know to what extent the profession remains attractive in comparison with other professions like marketing or things like that. And also something that is very important that has to do with equality, and in this case, the gender equality. No? I think this is one of the main challenges for the profession, and it's very important because if we somehow become a kind of old profession with people that are not prepared because of the mindset, for example, to do this digital transformation, we are in huge problems. Because at the end, if we don't do that transformation, technologies are going to do it, and they don't know about economy. So I think we have an important role to play, but we need to go also to universities and to tell boys and girls, come here, we need you, and let's apply some kind of fresh air to the profession. No, for example, with some formats, no, that let's say they are doing in technology, like hackathons. Why cannot we organize a European hackathon?
Well, that's one of the things we can do. What Bart mentioned about if we have funding, because it's always about funding. You have a business, you have an idea, it is money. So if we're funding something and it's funded by the let's say, or members, then we can do it, and we should do it. And I agree with that. But I also have to keep in time because also I'm the moderator because it's a nice coffee shop. So,
in the Netherlands, a coffee shop.
Oh yeah. I don't want. Now, what is important is that in the beginning we talked about tools and about sustainability and data, and I think it's important. That's also the cliffhanger for Patrick. It's already possible, and it's also, let's say, originated by a collaboration with an SMP, with an entrepreneur, how we can give sustainable advice adding to a financial report. And what he mentioned, and it's done by an hour, so I can think it's a lot of interesting business cases. If you can show it to us, and we can learn how you think what could help our profession.